Hey, how's it going? I think to get a good breakout from working in this little tiny corner of our world, we're gonna put some serious work in on this path that connects the woodcutting village to the mining colony. I'm tired of riding back and forth on this boring path because most of our storage is still over there in Greg's basement, so I really want something beautiful to look at while I'm going back and forth between the colonies. I'm still not using my elytra very much, so if we're gonna ride this horse around, we gotta have something worth looking at. The other thing we're gonna try to do is work on the landscaping right here in front of the gatehouses. I think if we can expand this top tier out like 10 blocks, and then move each of the tiers below it out a similar distance to the point that we're filling in this big hole here, probably up to this level is where the path will approach, or maybe even this level. I want the mining colony to kind of be up on a pedestal here, but I don't want it to be a steep hill going up to the gatehouse. So once we pull these layers out about this far, and we bring the normal ground level for this area out, maybe to like that cow, if we bring this whole area up to this level, I think it's really gonna sell that you're approaching the mining colony, and then once we get this gatehouse finished and we get this path figured out coming up to the colony, that's really gonna sell this grand effect as you're walking up and going through the gatehouse. Before we get to that though, I think we're gonna just work on getting the actual path perfectly outlined how we want it. I'm not saying it won't change, because once we terraform this area a little bit, we may decide that we want to do a little more or a little bit less of an angle on this pathway. But for now, I want to go back through and widen this thing out to at least 3 blocks wide, and then we'll come back through the pathway and start putting in some of our different block types in the pathway. I think we're gonna go with a similar palette to what we used over there in the woodcutter village, which is like, I think it's packed mud, path blocks, gravel, and coarse dirt. And then we may mix in a few like oak planks here and there. When we get over to the woodcutter village, I'll show you a little spot where we used a wood plank. And I actually like the way the oak wood plank looks next to a path block. They actually blend pretty well. And I think it could just add some interesting texture and differentiation as we go down the path. If we get through all of that in a reasonable amount of time, I think we'll also finally build this bridge. The biggest thing with this bridge, oh yes, beautiful, it's gonna rain. It's all right, it'll make the sunny shots when we're coming back this way look a little bit nicer. But anyway, we'll work on this bridge, we'll get this thing looking nice, and I also want to dig this trench out underneath so that when we're driving across, when we're riding our horse across the bridge, we can look down and it feels like this bridge had to be here, versus right now there's not really a good explanation why they wouldn't have just taken the path down the less steep part of the hill. But if we can dig this out a little ways and we put some trees to kind of block the sight line here, it'll sell this as like, oh, this bridge is crossing this ravine and it was kind of the only way they could settle a road through here. The other thing I want to do is put some trees to help frame up this view. When I'm coming across this bridge, I really want the mining colony to be like the major thing that you notice. So I think if we block this little area here with like a big oak tree, and then we put some more trees over here in like this valley, but we leave the actual mining colony itself pretty open. We'll leave this tree just so it's not like a weird tunnel to the mining colony. But if we can frame it here and frame it here, when you're coming across, oh geez, careful. But if we can frame it here and frame it here, when you're coming across this bridge, it'll really make this stand out as, oh, that's the next major destination on our path, to kind of give you an idea of where you're going. It's like when video games give you like a preview from a mountainside pathway of the city that you're going to explore. That's the way it looks in my brain. We'll see once we start getting path blocks and trees and stuff laid out. Where'd our horse go? I think I just saw him down here in this valley. Uh-oh. Birdie! Ah, there he is. For this area, I think I want to bring this path even closer to this bowl. I want it to feel almost precarious when you're coming along the edge here. So it feels like you're looking down, you're like, oh no, I don't want to fall down there into this major hole. We may put some like fence posts like that settlers have put along the way so that people didn't fall down into the hole. But I want to sell the feeling of like riding along the ridge of this hole. We may even dig this one a little deeper to help create that effect even more. And then the finishing touches will be some kind of lighted lamppost. I want a way for the pathway to be lit so that we can ride it at night reasonably safely. I'm not saying we're going to spawn proof the whole valley, but it'd be nice if nothing spawned directly on the road at least. That's the plan. I don't know what the lampposts are going to look like yet. We may just do like lanterns on a fence post, or we may make some like rudimentary looking fence post. It's not going to be something you'd find like in a city or a major colony. They're going to be like rough, and maybe there's like a rider that goes between the villages in the night to light the torches for people. I think that'll also help sell future roads where we can have like dark sections where it'll kind of feel less traveled and more, spooky, if that's the right word. So here's an example of the path blocks we're going to go for. I might mix like the densities up as we go and get some more variation. We do have some andesite here too. It actually doesn't look terrible, but I think we'll probably start mixing in more stone and andesite as we get closer to the mining colony. But for now, it'll be packed mud, gravel, spruce planks occasionally. Again, just here and there. You gotta be careful with these because here it works because it's framed by these other blocks. But if you just put this spruce plank like right in the middle of a bunch of path blocks, because it sticks up and it isn't quite the right shade, it does stick out quite a bit. So we'll use those sparingly, but it'll be a good way to mix things up. I don't know if our bridge is going to be stone or wood yet either, so we haven't even designed it yet. And then, yeah, coarse dirt, gravel, packed mud. Those are our major blocks. I think I actually drove by on the way in here. I've already got a shulker box kind of full of those materials. What I did is I made one row of coarse dirt, one row of gravel, and one row of packed mud. And I want to see how far that gets us down the pathway. I'm hoping this will get us most of the way, but if it doesn't get us most of the way, it'll give us a good idea of how much we're gonna need to finish it, because we have such a specific amount in here. It'll give us a good idea of how much blocks we're actually using for the path. And then I also need to get another shulker box just of dirt blocks so that we can landscape that area over there by the mining colony. That's the plan. First things first, get the path really figured out, get that area leveled, and we'll get the blocks mixed in. I'll probably check in once I have the blocks mixed in, and then, you know, we'll do some detailing beside the path to help finish it off. Oh, I guess I can show you real quick, actually. We built the, I think it's, oh, we gotta tie our horse up. I always forget to tie this guy up. You'd be surprised how far a horse will wander. What's up, Greg? Yeah. No, yeah, I'm got plans right now in my head for your room, actually. I just don't quite have the time to work on it yet. So yeah, we built the Il Mango mud farm something. I don't even know what it's called. Go watch his video if you want to know how to make it, because I probably can't even explain it correctly. Oh, we gotta get some dirt. If you do try to make this farm, let me warn you a few things ahead of time. This is gonna spit water bottles up this little floaty thing. You're gonna want to cover the top because this thing will actually launch and the water bottles can get stuck on the corners of this glass. You're gonna want to make sure you're using a slow-ish shovel. Originally, I was trying to use my diamond efficiency shovel, and you get ahead of the machine, and you start just mining dirt, and then the bottles back up, and you get dirt down here, and the whole thing breaks. And then you have to like go through and clean all the hoppers and dispensers and make everything work again. So make sure you're using a slow-ish shovel. I decided to just go with a plain Jane diamond shovel because I wasn't having any issues. I wasn't getting ahead of anything. There was no mess ups happening anymore. So I'm just gonna stick with that. There's probably a sweet spot where you could get like a really low efficiency or something, but we'll probably just throw mending and unbreaking on one of these things and it'll be our mud shovel. So this is how it works. You hold right click and that places your block. And then all you do is while you're still holding that, you hold the other click and it just breaks the blocks and places the blocks. Just like that. There's a little dropper right here that I just filled with this dirt and it spits out one dirt block every time you place one. So you can fill this up, fill this whole chest up, and it kind of just keeps supplying your offhand with dirt. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, probably on a technicality, it's faster to go find, see we got one dirt block in here, you gotta be really careful about that. That's when you can really start breaking things. It would probably be faster just to go to a swamp biome and mine the mud, but being able to do it right here in Greg's basement, and all I have to do is use up the dirt that I already have, which I have so much dirt. I had to make a little expansion room here, and I'm gonna start filling with more chests because we just end up with so much dirt and stone that we just needed somewhere to put it. Yeah, that's how we got the mud. And then we took the mud and mixed it with every last piece of wheat we had, pretty much. We have one row of wheat left. So hopefully we don't need a lot more packed mud because we're gonna have to make a much more efficient wheat farm. Otherwise, we're never gonna be able to get enough mud. So let's go to sleep. Let's get our stuff together. Let's start working on this pathway.
When I came over to your house, I dreamt that I was bleeding out, and I woke with you inside of my mouth, and questions of the why and how again.
Alrighty, thought I'd do a check-in. Let's look at what we've done so far. So, as usual, I massively underestimated how much work this was going to be. I mean, I knew this was going to be a decent amount of work just because it's a really long path, but there was a lot more terraforming that had to happen over by the mining colony in the valley, and also at the bottom of the step down after the bridge. I wasn't expecting to have to level out so much area there, and then it's just really hard to fine-tune these paths, where the road feels like a nice cohesive width, but also is interesting curving and the way that it turns. Like, see, even looking at this now, I wish this curved just slightly more. So I might, this is what I mean. It's just a constant game of like tweak, tweak, tweak. And then, you know, every time you move one side of the road, now you have to bring the other side in. But you see how this feels like it's like a, how to explain it? It's like a diagonal path versus this is kind of curving this way already. And this already starts to curve back, but it just doesn't quite turn enough, if that makes sense. And you always have to do more than you expect to. So I think we're actually going to come back probably to here. So yeah, that's kind of the game, as you can see. It's just a lot of tweaking, tweaking, tweaking until you find just the right balance. Get rid of all this junk. Until you get just the right balance where the road flows, but doesn't feel too, you know, intentionally directional. It has to be a path that like feels like they were trying to follow the terrain, if that makes sense. But I'm pretty happy with the overall shape now. When we start putting trees and fence posts in, we may change it slightly in some of the corners, you know, if it just works for the setting, but this is definitely a good overall shape. And I'm sure you saw in the time lapse kind of what the bird's eye view looked like it. I'm definitely happy with that shape overall. The moment to moment on the ground, like we might tweak a block here and there to get the width just right. And when we put in our blending blocks for our actual path blocks, I think it'll help a lot too. The path blocks are just such a stark difference from the grass that you really gotta get the shape just right, otherwise it just looks out of place. Also, we have to fix these again. I'm always doing this when I build up my terrain and not putting a lip here. So when you create the path block, you have this annoying see-through bit, but that is what it is. We can fix all that stuff later. Yeah, I'm happy with the overall shape now, and we've got a lot more work to do still. I don't think we're gonna get the bridge done. I think the bridge is gonna have to be next episode. I think next episode we'll do the bridge, the gatehouse, and maybe the valley gatehouse. I don't know. It's hard to break this stuff up in reasonable chunks so that it feels like we're making progress, but also I can get it done without killing myself. We're gonna get the pathway done. We're gonna get it decorated. It's gonna look cool. We're gonna get light posts and trees and texture blocks. We're gonna get all that done. I'll probably just stop right before the bridge and start right after it. There'll be one little unfinished mark in the middle of our episode, but that's okay. Baby steps. You gotta look at projects like this as incremental steps, and you can't expect to get it all done in one sitting. You just gotta be happy that you're making progress with every bit, and I'll be pretty happy if we can get this whole thing textured and get some decorations around it. But if I'm gonna get this thing done on time, I need to get back to work. See you in a minute.
Heat of the summer over desert land where the sun beats down like a cattle brand. No sign of water, but you quench my thirst. You're the only one living, and still you burn. You're a sight to see, so fierce, so free, such a mystery. Keep going your way, don't ever change, baby. I see you shining in a world of shade. Try to steal your color, but you still don't fade. I wanna take you to the after hour. Cactus flower, you're my cactus flower. I see your petals, I see your wildflower side. I wanna see you dancing in that light. I wanna hold you, I wanna pull you close, keep you warm in the winter when you're out on your
It was definitely a lot of work, but it was worth it. I don't think I could be much more happy with the way this thing turned out. Sure, there's more tweaks that could be made. There's a few things that if I did it again, I might change. It wasn't my intention initially to put fences so often, but as I went, I just really liked the looks of a bordered path. So we ended up carrying a significant amount more fences all the way down to the mining colony, but it really does give you this nice, like, tight pathway feeling. I like how this turned out. I did carve this hill. It's almost unnoticeably different, but I just took off a few layers. That's why you see more like exposed stone here, because we carved off just a few layers of grass so that this was a little more steep, and it made this handrail feel much more needed, I guess. We didn't get around to digging this hole deeper. I kind of forgot about it, honestly, but we'll probably come back and dig this out so that there's another kind of fall off and this little middle section feels slightly more precarious. I planted trees pretty often. I really wanted it to feel tight knit. Eventually I'd like to go out behind here and probably fill in more of these areas with trees. so that it's not just the single layers. I did it in some places where there was big gaps I put extra trees in, but for the most part it's just enough trees to kind of obscure your vision when you're on the path. Come on, birdie, come on. We're doing a tour, bro. I put lamps pretty often. We may come back through and make those lampposts I was talking about, but in terms of just getting this thing to a finished enough state, for now we're just putting them on the fences. And I actually think like the look of having a lantern sitting on a fence works pretty well, so I'm not mad about that at all. You get a couple little sneak peeks of the mining colony, and then when you get to the bridge, you still have just enough of a view of it where you can see the melon farm and the walls. I ended up coming in late and planting a couple trees right in front of the gatehouses, and it did end up obscuring the gatehouse some, but you'll see when we get up there, it really helps sell that walk up to the gatehouse, so I'm gonna leave them there. You still get some nice sneak peeks of it so you can see it as you're walking down the path. I do wish you could like get a big grand shot of the entire thing at some point, but I think what we have now works. We didn't really change up this terrain too much in this area. We widened this out just ever so slightly so we could fit some walls and fences. And you can see that we did go with that same palette. We didn't end up using any spruce planks actually, except for when we're walking up slopes. Then we used the spruce planks just to help if someone's gonna walk down the path on foot. It just makes it a little bit more smooth. You don't have to do a bunch of jumping when you're going down through the way. Eventually we'll branch off here. I have a little bit of a slime farm started there. It's only like 2 blocks dug below that. There's like 3 slime chunks right next to each other right here. So eventually we'll build a slime farm there. And we'll want a little pathway or a road maybe going that way. I'm trying to decide, the next big area after the mining colony is gonna be villager themed in terms of like villager trades. And I don't know if I want to put it over here in this corner of the valley, or maybe that's what we'll do with our new valley out behind. The question is, do we want a linear like journey from like woodcutting village, mining colony, villager, or do we want to start by making a triangle? And I think making like a triangle between these 3 could be a really good footprint for the start of this world. But that's all up in the air at this point. Our little chest monster, while we've been working on the mining colony, we may have to move to a more permanent storage solution actually in the walls. It is a little bit annoying walking over here all the time, but it's close enough. And I think it actually kind of fits, like it's kind of a neat little destination along the path to add a little bit of character. This area is where we brought all of those tiers out to. So this originally was way up there by the mining colony. So we used quite a bit of dirt getting this out here. And then this tier is obviously that next tier. So we brought each one out pretty far. And then when we get up here, we still kept it a little bit steep, so there's kind of a cool walk up for the final end of the pathway. And then we put 2 big dark oaks here, which I think is one of the trees that's kind of obscuring the gatehouse, but I think that these 2 big dark trees help kind of frame the end of the pathway, and it just gives it kind of a cool effect as you approach up to the castle. One area that is definitely not finished is I threw up these bushes just because I need to come back through and figure something out with these path blocks. I might actually use bushes, but maybe some other kind of like manicured rows. I just don't know what to do with this big unspawnable area. He spawned when we were doing terraforming, I think. I think this area is still stone golem proof, but when we were digging dirt blocks over here and placing new blocks, I think he ended up spawning on one of them. Yeah, that's the pathway. I love it. We could do a quick reverse loop here on our horsey. It's definitely still horseable. There's a couple areas that get a little bit tight. I think when we get this little archway here too, this is gonna be such a cool little area. This tree grew big, and I like getting the big oak trees occasionally, but this one does look a little out of place. The leaf generation just doesn't look right, so this needs some manicuring. There's a few spots of touch up, but I'm definitely happy with the overall. And then when you come around this corner, we left one little opening here with no trees so that you can get just a little peek at the backside of Greg's Tavern. But it's still obscured enough that it doesn't feel like it's right next door to the colony. Yeah, that's it. It took actually way less mud and coarse dirt and gravel than I really expected. The biggest thing that I actually used way more of was these spruce fences. This is a lot of spruce fences. I think it was like 8 stacks of spruce fences that we ended up using. So I don't think I only started with 1, assuming that I would just be putting down kind of sparse spruce fence posts, but we ended up doing a lot more of that. And I also, when I got to these diagonals, I actually kind of like this, like you put like a fence post and then a spruce wall and a fence post. You can still walk between these, but it still gives the, I don't know. Originally I had just like fence post, and it was just too much wood. And especially where these are so spindly, it looked like a huge gap here. And I was like, well, that's not really protecting anyone. But the wall fills it up just enough, and it's a good breakup in the texture. I probably should do something here with more fence posts to break up these 3 walls, but it works. Over time, as I see stuff, I'll probably come back in through here and kind of move fence posts or move walls, tweak some tree bushes. A couple areas through here, the trees got kind of close to the pathway, and I did trim those back. It's gonna be so nice having an actual nice path to ride down as we go back and forth. I really do go back and forth between these 2 places like 100 times an episode, and usually it's because I get all the way over there and forgot, oh crap, I needed gold or something, and then I had to run all the way back here to get it. But now I have a nice beautiful path that's, I think it's totally spawn proof everywhere on the path all the way through. I probably could even get away with removing a couple lanterns, but I like the effect, especially as it starts to get dark. You get a lot of nice visible light, and it really brightens up the pathway in contrast to the area around it. So like as soon as this area right here has no lanterns in it, and you can tell like as you're approaching the woodcutting village, that just looks like such a dark spot, and I wanted the path to feel like bright and safe, if that makes sense. So like even in this tree, I hid one because I didn't want a dark spot on the wood line here. And all the way mends perfectly with the woodcutter village. That's all we have time for today. If you made it this far in the episode, thanks for sticking around. Have a good one.
Messed up, you are. Got me singing like I'm Yoda. You is, we aren't good company to each other. Narrator of my dreams, make it make sense. On the outside, I don't seem like anything less. Will someone ever tag along for the ride? Will someone ever tag along for the ride? Calm as you are, we listen to your favorite tune in your car. Why try to change me now? Time based, but no time for us. Loud bitch, bad bars. You were scared, so you kept me down. I trust my mama, you're no match for my bad karma. Broken shards of glass on her tongues. I'm far too scary to be what you like. Will someone ever tag along for